I've been waiting so.
The stories of rock's classic albums are available on DVD now. Go into the studio with the artist and producers as they break down their classic albums track by track. Classic album DVDs are available now at FYE and FYE.com. For your entertainment, visit FYE.com to find a store near you.
Gender-bending Alice Cooper shocked his way to the top of superstardom.
The Alice character was getting bigger, and we were scary, and we were loud, and we were right in their face.
Only to fall madly off the deep end.
I'd get up in the morning and throw up blood.
I was fearful for his life.
Would you buy a car from this man?
But rock's most notorious madman came back with a vengeance.
This new, improved Alice came out.
Behind the Music Remastered, Alice Cooper. An all-new episode next.
I want this whole place trashed!
Alice Cooper didn't just shut school down. He hung, electrocuted, and beheaded the status quo.
We were much more into death, sex, money, and total freedom to do whatever we wanted to.
Our goal was really to get parents to hate us.
Before Marilyn Manson, before Kiss, before David Bowie, gender-bending Alice Cooper shocked his way to superstardom.
I see Alice holding a chicken, he's going to throw it out. I go, that thing is never going to fly.
And the audience tears it to pieces.
He became Alice by accident.
I wasn't going to be Alice Cooper. I was Vince Furnier, you know? When we became Alice Cooper, it was like, oh, you're Alice. Hey, Alice. And I'd go, oh, me?
He took his band and his outlandish alter ego all the way to the top. Eventually, Alice overpowered his creator.
The Alice character was getting bigger and was getting more press and was getting more dangerous.
Alice nearly drank himself to death.
Look at me. Would you buy a car from this man?
I'd get up in the morning and throw up blood.
He was very thin, very pale, pretty much given up eating.
I was fearful for his life.
Rock's most notorious madman found himself in a mental institution.
I want to get out of here! I want to get out of here!
But the king of shock rock found lasting sobriety, even more gore, and achieved legendary status as the awards rolled in.
Now, America's first, America's original boy named Alice. Alice Cooper, the story behind the music. Alice Cooper's macabre theatrical vision broke bizarre new ground for post-60s pre-punk rock and roll.
Welcome to my nightmare!
Alice was shockingly controversial, and controversy sold tickets.
I want to be in the headlines.
We invented so many great stories about Alice, and then the public did it for us.
He stuck a naked picture of himself on a truck and had it break down in London's Piccadilly Circus. And he may or may not have lost his virginity in a coffin.
That very well may have happened. If it didn't, it's a great story. Anyway, I would never deny it.
What is certain is that Alice Cooper first screamed his way into the world as Vincent Furnier on February 4th, 1948 in Detroit, Michigan. He was born the second child of Ella and Mickey Furnier. Vincent's father was the pastor of a local church. He was devoted to God, but he had a thing for rock and roll.
My dad could quote just about anything in the Bible at all. And I'd open up and I'd say, okay, Ezekiel 3:14. And he would say, and the Lord saith unto me, da-da-da-da-da. I said, okay. Then I'd say, okay, who plays bass for the Animals? And he goes, Chess Chandler. And I'd go, gee.
When Vince was 12, the Furnier family moved to Phoenix, Arizona. By the time he attended Cortez High in 1963, Vince was one of the most popular kids in school. It was at Cortez High that the seeds were sown for trendsetting Vince's future success.
He would wear a tie and a suit to school. And when everybody would start wearing ties and suits, he would go to something different all the time.
He was a quick-witted writer for the school paper. He also starred on the track team. In 1966, 18-year-old Vince's life changed forever when he teamed with future Alice Cooper bandmates Glenn Buxton, Dennis Dunaway, and two other track buddies to have some fun at a school talent show.
Alice and I said, well, why don't we do a Beatles parody? So we decided we'll put on wigs so that we'll be like the Beatles, only we'll call it the Earwigs.
The Earwigs soon got serious about their music and changed their name to the Spiders. Even in their earliest incarnation, eye-catching theatrics were the band's trademark. By summer of '66, the Spiders had graduated Cortez High and grown their hair long. They also replaced guitarist John Tatum with Michael Bruce.
I was a big Beatles fan, and I kind of learned the song stylings of the Beatles, Paul McCartney.
We still got a long way to go.
The Spiders made a decent living playing the local clubs, but they dreamed of big-time rock and roll success. So they left the subdued suburbs of Phoenix for the wild frontier of Los Angeles. Los Angeles in 1967 was a hotbed of the youth movement, and LA's Sunset Strip was the place that young rock and roll bands went to be discovered.
Everybody was just trying to get an audition anywhere. And, you know, you'd drive by the whiskey and just go, someday.
The band renamed itself The Nazz and struggled along. In the winter of '67, drummer John Spear quit and was replaced by their friend Neil Smith.
Maybe we couldn't buy food sometimes, but we'd always buy, Budweiser.
It was about that time that Vince had his very first drink, a beer.
And from that day on, I think I had a beer every day of my life. Up until I stopped after that. I had found my place.
The band had also found its place. By early 1968, the Nazz began performing at the Cheetah, a local LA club. But when they learned that Todd Rundgren also had a band called the Nazz, the hunt was on for a new name.
I said, what if we were like, Alice Cooper? And I remember saying that was the first name that popped into my head.
We all had long hair. Everybody will think we're gay or, we're weird or whatever. And I recall their initial reaction was not a positive one.
It had a certain deranged quality to it. It would have to make people go, what? Who's Alice? Well, wait a minute. These are all guys. Who's Alice Cooper?
Alice Cooper started to dress the part with a helping hand from a local girl group, the GTOs.
If you wore a little black under your eyes, if you wore a little bit of this rouge here, you are Alice Cooper. I mean, and I had absolutely no qualms about that. I was figuring I've got to build a reputation somehow in this city.
Fans began to assume the lead singer's name was Alice. It was time for Vincent Furnier to embrace his fate.
I wasn't going to be Alice Cooper. I was Vince Furnier.
With a lead singer called Alice and their shocking look and sound, they were easily one of the most bizarre bands in town. Just the sort of freak show that Frank Zappa was looking for the Doors.
Alice came on before the Doors came on. They did a song called Nobody Likes Me behind a little window.
Nobody likes me, it's all my fault.
I had my hair out like this with this horrific makeup on and a pink clown outfit.
He looked at everyone and he said, "You hate me. I know you hate me." And he just forgot the song and went up into the thing and they said, "Okay, we hate you." Everybody left.
We cleared that room in about 10 minutes. I mean, there was people running for the Doors.
I realized that the reaction was amazing. What it takes to get people to leave when they came to see the Doors is remarkable. So if you're capable of getting that kind of reaction at someone, if you just redirect it, I thought we had a real chance.
Right, we all hate you, we hate your dog spot. Even the spot.
Coming up next, Alice Cooper forgets that chickens don't fly.
The audience ripped it apart.
And throws it back on stage, parts of it.
And later, Alice loses control and checks into a mental institution.
I could not sign my name. My motor skills were so wrecked. My nerve endings were gone.
When Behind the Music continues.
Just a little insane.
Sponsored by L'Oreal Paris, because you're worth it. And by Progressive Insurance. Visit Progressive.com today.
Erase doubt.
10, only on VH1 Classic.
Look up, standing with your head held high. You will be reflected.
In 1969, Alice Cooper, the man and the band released their debut album, Pretty's for You, on Frank Zappa's Straight Records. It was a commercial failure.
Nobody had ever seen anything like this. Everybody was peace and love, and isn't everything great? And here was this band that was just right out of the crypt. And we were scary, and we were loud, and we were right in their face.
The quote was that if Alice Cooper ever makes it, it's going to be the death of the flower generation.
The band zigzagged the country on low-budget tours, hoping their wild theatrical rock show would catch on. It didn't. By the middle of 1970, they were over $100,000 in debt, and Shep struggled to keep up morale.
My mantra to everybody was that it only took 10, 11, 12 guys to start Christianity. We're 5, 6. We don't need to be that big.
We realized we weren't wanted in LA anymore because nobody would hire us.
The band did need a change of scene. They packed up their instruments and moved to Michigan.
The difference was Detroit was all high energy, stand up with your fist in the air, and it had to be hard rock and roll.
Alice made an impact in the Michigan area. It was a September 1969 concert in nearby Toronto that brought the band to national attention. It all started with a pillow fight.
Well, we had about 8 pillows that night. And we covered this varsity stadium, and everybody had feathers in their hair. Right in the middle of all this, somebody throws a chicken on stage.
I see Alice holding a chicken. He's gonna throw it out. I'm going, that thing is never going to fly.
A chicken's a bird. You know, this is all my logic is working. The bird's got feathers. It'll fly away.
Well, it did.
And the chicken goes right back into the front row. And the audience tears it to pieces and throws it back on stage, parts of it.
And gave him this huge standing ovation. The place went wild.
We're in trouble all the time. You read about us all in the papers.
The next day I get the call from Zappa saying, "Did you kill the chicken on stage?" And I said, "No." And he says, "Well, don't tell anybody. Everybody loves him. You're the most notorious character of all time now."
But notoriety didn't translate into commercial success. Frank Zappa had sold his record label to Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers wasn't exactly thrilled about having Alice Cooper on their roster. Shep convinced the label to give the band money to record 4 songs. After almost 2 years of lackluster record sales, it was perhaps their last stab at success.
At that time, we were going into our 3rd album. We had to really do a demo tape.
We knew we were a good stage act. We just didn't have a handle on the music.
In the summer of 1970, Alice Cooper was still a diamond in the rough when up-and-coming producer Bob Ezrin caught Alice's act in a New York City nightclub.
I'm thinking, this band is awesome. And particularly, this one song that they played, which just got me where I lived, called I'm Edgy. Because I'm thinking, man, this is a really edgy show, you know, and he's going, I'm edgy.
Ezrin worked with the band to polish the rough songs he had heard in New York.
We started working on songs and went from them being ragged and uncertain and kind of off the cuff to being really tight and powerful and almost orchestral.
He basically taught us how to play.
What he was really the 6th member of Alice Cooper.
The song most transformed by Ezrin's efforts was the song he had first misunderstood as edgy. By the time the young producer was finished, it was clear that the song was really called 18 was a hit.
Warner Brothers heard it and they flipped, and they wanted to release it right away, so we had to go right back in and finish the album.
In 1971, the Alice Cooper Band's 3rd album, Love It to Death, hit the stores, and 18 became an anthem for teenagers around the world. Alice Cooper, the phenomenon, had arrived. Preacher's son falls for a preacher's daughter.
Once he popped the question and we knew it was right, we did it.
It was never a doubt. It was just like, well, I've got to marry her.
Then Alice gets consumed by Alice.
I was drifting so much into the Alice character that it was getting so much bigger than me.
When Behind the Music continues.
What?
Sorry won't be enough to heal their wounds. What these animals really need is your help. Call or go online right now with your $18 monthly gift to the animals. When all hope is lost, you'll be there, rescuing them from a life of abuse, providing urgent medical care, and giving them the chance to feel loved again. Call or join online in the next 10 minutes, and we'll send you the photo of an animal in the shelter and a free ASPCA t-shirt. By reaching out today, you'll answer the cries of an animal who's waiting for help. Please call or go online to joinaspca.org to save a life today.
Tonight, Philip Anselmo sits down and talks metal shop.
We stayed true heavy metal. We knew what our power was, man. We had the best fans in the world.
And former Kiss guitarist Bruce Kulick stops by.
If you were still in Kiss, would you in fact be wearing Ace Frehley makeup right now?
I've kind of kept that 12-year non-makeup era kind of sacred, and I'm the only one that really waving the flag for it.
That Metal Show, an all-new episode tonight at 11.
Only on VH1 Classic.
By 1971, it had been 4 years and 2 failed albums since the man who became Alice Cooper left Phoenix to become a rock star. That February, Alice Cooper exploded onto the charts with Love It to Death.
When you have a hit record, the world gets real fast. There was no such thing as days off.
Nothing came easy. Nothing came free.
9 months after the release of Love It to Death, the band unleashed Killer. Killer presented a darker vision of the Alice Cooper character, one that would haunt the man called Alice for years to come.
We made the character a little bit stronger, a little bit more dark. Now, just a natural evolution that this character's more of a villain.
Our goal was really to get parents to hate us. If we disgusted a parent, that was exactly where we wanted to go to.
Alice Cooper gave parents plenty of reasons to be disgusted. Beheadings, hangings, electrocutions, live snakes, and butchered baby dolls were all part of Alice's evil act.
Dead
Back home in Phoenix, Alice's minister father was forced to defend his son's scandalous behavior to mortified parishioners.
He got in a lot of trouble with his church about it, but he stood by me. He says, look, I know my kid is not satanic. I know that what he does, a lot of it's a sense of humor.
And now that Alice Cooper had hit upon a formula for success, he wasn't about to repent or in fortune.
We're sort of now a gigantic wave. Covers of everything, covers of Forbes. Everybody's talking about him, TV clips. It's 20-hour days and a lot of traveling and limos and rock and roll and babes and drinking.
billion-dollar babies. La da 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 da.
7 months after the breakout of School's Out, the band topped itself and the album charts with an explosive self-parody entitled Billion Dollar Babies.
It was just the fact that our formula was working. Everything was working. People liked the albums, people loved the show, and they couldn't get enough of it. It was the best time of my life at that point.
Alice's best time was also his highest time, because by now, his bud was his constant companion.
Yeah, I just live for right now. 2 beers, different brands.
He couldn't go to bed unless he made sure he had a beer sitting next to the bed, because that's the first thing that he did in the morning.
Before I'd open my eyes, I'd have 3 or 4 hits of beer, and then I'd wake up, turn on the cartoons, and then get up, throw up. I said, okay, I'm ready for the day. Let's go.
Just a little insane. A couple shots, I can't feel no pain.
And Alice was definitely becoming an alcoholic.
What are your immediate plans now then? Going back to America?
Well, I'm gonna go home and get drunk.
Yeah.
For one. You don't mind if I drink?
Go right ahead.
Nobody really knew that every once in a while I'd get up in the morning and throw up blood. Throwing up blood was part of being on the road.
Look at me. Would you buy a car from this man?
By now, Alice's stage persona had become a malicious presence with a life of its own.
When I assume the character, I have no idea what he's going to do because it's not me.
The creation was taking over its creator. The Alice character cast its dark shadow over the band. Drummer Neil Smith and guitarist Mike Bruce had grown tired of Alice's theatrics, upstaging their music. The conflict came to a head during the making of their 1973 album Muscle of Love. Producer Bob Ezrin walked into the studio and hit a wall of resistance.
We wanted to reinvent Alice Cooper Group as something that could do an album perhaps that wasn't tethered to a major theatrical production.
I just wasn't ready for the conflict. I wasn't ready to fight. So I resigned.
Muscle of Love came out in the winter of '73, their 7th record in 4 years. And though it hit number 10 on the album charts, it was considered only a modest success. The band was exhausted, and they needed a break from the monster called Alice.
Members of the band really felt that they were being sort of subsumed by Alice's success and my power and Shep's power, and they needed to flex their muscles.
Maybe it was the right time for everybody to go do their own projects. But I wasn't going to give up the theatrics.
We're right at the edge of taking over the universe. How high it could have gone, I don't know.
Welcome to my nightmare. I think you're gonna like it.
On April Fool's Day, 1975, 27-year-old Alice Cooper took the stage as a solo artist. He was nervous, and it wasn't just that he no longer had his friends backing him. He and manager Shep Gordon had funded the huge groundbreaking tour with their own money.
I just said, if we lose this, we lose everything. If we make it, it's going to be huge.
That's just the way we are when we come down.
Without the objections of his former bandmates weighing him down, Alice brought in a Broadway choreographer and elaborate costumes. Alice's theatrical vision soared. He and Shep had triumphed. The song landed in the top 20, and while on tour, Alice met someone to sing it to, a beautiful young dancer named Cheryl Goddard.
Smoke some drinks and don't come home at all. Only women bleed.
Cheryl had joined Alice's tour as a dancer.
I said, Alice Cooper, who's she? So you ask me anything about Bach or Rachmaninoff, and I'll tell you what opus cantata and movement, but nothing about rock and roll.
I got to know her because I had to learn how to dance. On song like Some Folks was it Fred Astaire. Only skeletons dancing with the top hats and tails.
Though 18-year-old Cheryl was 9 years younger than Alice, they had things in common. Both their fathers were ordained ministers.
When the tour was over, there was something really missing, and it wasn't the show. It was Cheryl.
When the tour ended in July of '75, Alice and Cheryl started dating. Their romance was on a fast track to a future together. As the sun set over Mexico's Acapulco Bay on March 20th, 1976, Cheryl Goddard became Mrs. Alice Cooper.
Both of our fathers, who were pastors, ended up performing the ceremony, each giving us the vows to say to each other. Very special, very special.
Cheryl married Alice for better or worse. She knew he had a drinking problem, but she didn't know how bad his problem would become.
There didn't seem to be an obvious problem. If he were falling down or abusive or any of those things, I think attention would have been paid much more quickly.
I denied it for an awful long time, and she just kind of overlooked it because, you know, I mean, she, well, he'll come around, and he's still not missing any shows, and he's not mean, and he's not beating me. You know, I wasn't a cruel drunk. I wasn't a stupid drunk. I was just a drinker.
Myself running in circles, lost and half insane.
By the time his Lace and Whiskey album came out in spring of '77, Alice Cooper's alcohol abuse had become a serious problem.
Got to the point where he wouldn't perform. He didn't want to leave his room.
Every time I would look at my stage clothes laying there, I would get literally nauseous.
We'd have to get physical with him, smack him around. It was ugly.
After nearly a decade of nonstop drinking, Alice fell apart completely.
That we needed to address it and make some changes.
I was fearful for his life. I was. I went to his house and I found him in a state of acute pain. And we cried together and we talked and I said, "You're like a man with no skin, you know, and everything that touches you now hurts." And I said, "What you really need right now is safety, like asylum."
Alice Cooper found asylum in the fall of '77 when Cheryl, Shep, and Bob Ezrin committed him to a long-term psychiatric care facility in White Plains, New York. Coming up next, the return of Evil Alice.
The new Alice is much more, glad to say, much more vicious than the other one.
And later, Alice gets rushed to the hospital.
Doctor took one look at him and said, "Ooh-wee, you're in trouble."
When Behind the Music continues.
For classic rock radio.
On VH1 Classic.
In the fall of 1977, 29-year-old Alice Cooper found himself locked up in a psychiatric treatment center. There, he spent the longest nights of his life confronting his demons. After 3 months of therapy, a clean and sober Vincent Furnier, a.k.a. Alice Cooper, emerged with an understanding that the root of his problems lay in his evil Alice persona.
That was what a lot of it boiled down to. I'm still confessing this in front of the world. But I mean, a lot of it was the fact that I was drifting so much into the Alice character that it was getting so much bigger than me. I figured I had to bring that character off stage.
Controlling Alice wasn't his only concern. He was also worried about... In his typical tongue-in-cheek manner, Alice made light of his experience in the album From the Inside, released just a year after his release. But by 1981, Alice had gone off the deep end once again.
I've been designing the new Alice. The new Alice is much more, glad to say, much more vicious than the other one.
His sobriety had ended with a sip of Cheryl's wine.
By that night, I had hidden 2 bottles of whiskey in the house.
And it snowballed and snowballed. And pretty soon he was pretty much drinking full-time like he was in the old days.
Musically, Alice tried hard to recapture the success of the old days. He released 3 albums from 1981 to 1983. Each one failed to regain the audience he had lost. After recording his 17th album, Dada, Alice returned home to Phoenix, where his alcohol-ravaged body simply gave out.
It's almost overnight, and then bam. He starts getting very sick, and he can't get out of bed. And you can tell he's in really rough shape, and there's a problem.
It wasn't good. He was very thin, very pale, pretty much given up eating.
In the fall of '83, Alice's family finally decided to check him in to a local hospital. Alice was critically malnourished. He hovered close to death.
Doctor took one look at him and said, "Ooh-wee, you're in trouble."
But before Alice's doctors could begin treating his alcoholism, they first had to stabilize his condition.
They put him in a sick bed. They hooked him up with tons of IVs and tubes. His system was completely depraved of any vitamins or nourishment. So they started shooting him full of vitamins.
And the doctor said he had cirrhosis of the liver, and he would be all right if he could straighten himself out.
Alice spent 2.5 weeks in the hospital drying out.
I was so tired of depending on it. I think I finally just got a point of just saying, I just don't want it anymore.
After years of drinking, Alice Cooper finally kicked his addiction in September of 1983.
He always tells me he traded one bad habit for another one. Although I think this is a much better habit. I say, honey, just try to keep it down to 18 a day, okay?
Alice spent the next 3 years at home with his wife and children. He wasn't sure if he would ever play the role of Alice on stage again.
The thought of going back up on stage and doing Alice without being anesthetized was pretty frightening. But I somehow decided to try to write again.
He began by writing with guitarist Kane Roberts.
There's something unusual about it, and every once in a while we would start writing, and just the songs with the lyrics would just start coming out of him.
Alice clicked with Kane, and in September of '86 they released Alice Cooper's 18th album. The follow-up tour forced Alice to confront his fear of performing his evil Alice character while stone cold sober. Publicly, he put up a bold front.
Alice is back with a vengeance. Alice has been pent up for 4 years now, and I haven't really let him out for 4 years. That's sort of like not having sex for 4 years.
Suddenly, this new, improved Alice came out, and he was almost unbearable.
I mean, he really became this guy, this really sick guy.
Just walking around like he owned the place, and it was like, come on. It was great. I felt so good. I was like this surge of power, because I felt good. The first time I'd ever felt good on stage.
Welcome to my nightmare.
New generations of fans, many of whom were born long after his gory glory days in the early 70s. Between 1989 and 99, Alice released 3 studio albums, a live album, and a box set of classic Cooper. Alice's marriage to Cheryl has helped to keep him focused on the positive elements of his life. And his incessant touring keeps the Alice Cooper character alive, dead, and kicking. Coming up, Alice's nightmare returns.
Sane guy sitting there talking to his pet spider, Steven, going, we couldn't have done this.
He launches his own radio show, and the awards start to roll in when Behind the Music continues.
I love my curves, but the love I have for strawberry shortcake threw a curve at my curves. So,
Classic. As the end of the 20th century approached, it had been 6 years since Alice had released any new records, and many fans wondered if his recording days were over.
The Alice Cooper character is an ongoing thing. There's never time off, even though there's no album out. There's always touring and touring and touring. And, you know, we never let the character rest, really, at all.
In fact, Alice was to enter one of the most prolific writing and recording periods of his entire career.
He creates. That's what he does. For him, this is not rehashing. That bores him to death.
When Brutal Planet emerged in 2000, fans got a new Alice, a heavy metal sound with a message, a warning about man's treatment of the earth and his fellow man.
To this day, it's one of my favorite Alice Cooper records. It's probably the heaviest record he's ever made.
The emphasis was on brutal, but I actually was most impressed by what he had to say, not how loud he said it.
Here's our planet, our society, morally, physically, economically, heading towards a brick wall at 1,000 miles an hour.
You find him grappling with tough questions, and there aren't a lot of easy answers.
As with Only Women Bleed 25 years earlier, on this new album, Alice returned to a theme which seems to be close to his heart, the abuse of women.
Maybe it's a protective thing that I have. Maybe it's because I have 2 daughters and a wife.
Abuse of anyone, but particularly women, is something he's always come back to.
You've been beaten down, kicked around, on the ground, but you treat me like a woman.
And following in her mother's footsteps, Alice's daughter Calico took over the roles of the battered and abused women in Alice's live shows.
he goes,
look, we're gonna put together the old show. I mean, full on guillotines, heads flying, you know, chickens running around.
When we're actually performing, she is an actress. She's not my daughter, and I'm not her dad. I'm Alice Cooper.
Basically, you get to do ballet, but covered in blood.
From the inside, is quite normal with staunch family values. The only difference is the staunch family values have to do with whip dances and dominatrix outfits.
I think he gets more twisted the older that he gets. You know, he always says that the more twisted the fans get, the more twisted we'll get.
Continuing his theme, his next album, Dragontown, was a clear warning that without a spiritual transformation, we were all heading for hell itself.
Once you're in hell, which is Dragontown, there is no way out. Once you're there, you're there. That's biblical. As long as there are human beings on this planet, you're never gonna run out of hypocrisy, pure love, pure hate, comedy. It's all there.
Having exorcised some of his creative demons with his last two albums, Alice was in a lighter mood for 2003's The Eyes of Alice Cooper. He had found a band again and was going back to basics. The album contained an Alice Cooper classic, We Were Back to School. Rejuvenated by his return to the stripped-down garage rock sound he had pioneered in the early 70s, he released Dirty Diamonds in 2005, while his radio show, Nights with Alice Cooper, launched a year earlier, was receiving rave reviews and a growing audience. Alice's vast musical knowledge and his mix of rarely heard classic rock and celebrity anecdotes was proving a hit with his listeners.
Greetings, mutants and minions. It's Alice Cooper, the king of your kind, here on 100.7 KSLX. On this evening's Nights with Alice Cooper, I'll play you music those other stations don't want to play at all.
When I listen to oldies radio now, I hear the same 40 songs.
Deep cuts from Aerosmith, The Who, Guns N' Roses, ELO, and my favorites, of course, the Yardbirds.
One of the things people don't know about Alice is the depth of knowledge that he has of music.
I can tell you a story about just about every band I play.
That was Roadhouse Blues by The Doors on Nights with Alice Cooper back in L.A. in the 60s. We actually opened for The Doors and hung out and gigged with The Doors. We went to a lot of the recording sessions, which was great. I mean, they let us in and sort of like took us under their wing. And Roadhouse Blues, I had a little something to do with that one. I got up this morning and I got myself a beer. It's my line.
Never wanting to rest on his laurels, Alice set out to create a brand new show based around his vast catalog of hits. This would bring together all the classic theatrical elements and introduce his fans to new levels of gore. It was the theater of death.
The beheading, the hanging, a giant syringe that goes through you, put you in a box with giant nails that come through, but you keep coming back. In other words, they can't kill Alice.
And at the end of the show, they're covered in blood and feathers, and they're going, "This was the best night I've ever had in my life."
I've seen him a million times, and it was better than ever. And the fact that someone can still be better than ever is incredible.
Alice seemed rejuvenated by his return to form, and with his next album was to revisit the familiar territory of Welcome to My Nightmare.
We found his diary today. He wrote in great detail how cleverly he planned all of the killings.
We don't know if this guy actually did all this murdering in
28 years.
You've got to do what drives you and what motivates you. And that's why the Alice Coopers of the world are still around making records, because they go to their own drummer.
Alice was riding high. Along Came a Spider was his highest charting album since 1991, and the music world started to publicly recognize his legendary status. something his fans had known for years.
Alice is the founding father of theatrical rock. Alice laid the blueprint for so many of these artists, whether it be Kiss or Marilyn Manson or Rob Zombie.
I feel that he invented everything.
The Scream Rock Immortal Award was one of a glut of honors Alice received in a rush of belated recognition, which also included an honorary doctorate, a star on Hollywood Boulevard, a Mojo Rock Hero, and the Classic Rock Living Legend Award.
I was the most hated human being in America. If you stick around long enough, you go from being hated to being lovable.
From seeds sown by guest appearances for each other, Rob Zombie and Alice Cooper finally embarked on a tour together in 2010. It was a match made in hell.
Rob Zombie. In the same night, Alice Cooper. The gruesome twosome tour.
Rob could be my young brother.
I've always loved Alice. He was the first musical entity I was ever excited about, that I was ever exposed to, so it's always been a complete Alice Cooper love affair.
When he becomes Rob Zombie, he's not him anymore, just the way I'm not me.
It's a good pairing because musically we're very different.
For an audience, I think it's just fantastic because they're getting the best of both worlds.
It's awesome. Gruesome twosome. Get any better than that?
A modern-day Frankenstein, Alice Cooper terrorizes his audiences by night and his golf opponents by day.
Alice Cooper ahead for par to remain tied for the lead.
Golf is now a 6-day-a-week habit, with Alice regularly participating in celebrity pro-am charity tournaments.
Right now I can hold my own with in a pro-am. I can either shoot 1 or 2 over or maybe 1 or 2 under. But making a living at it, people don't realize how good they are. You know, they are another world.
You couldn't be more rebellious. Everybody's getting drunk. Everybody's taking heroin. What wasn't anybody doing? Playing golf. And like everything else, he got good at it.
His obsession with golf has helped keep Alice free of his alcohol addiction since 1983.
God just took it away from me. Even doctors go, that's miraculous. You know, and I said, well, I believe so too. So I wasn't a cured alcoholic, I was a healed alcoholic.
In recognition of the help he had privately given to other addicts, Alice received the Stevie Ray Vaughan Award from Music Cares.
And I invite anybody here or anybody who's friends that has a problem. I mean, my phone's always open. I'll take a call anytime.
He's got his personal beliefs all in order for him, what works for him. He's found a healthy way to be Alice Cooper and still be Vincent, and he's found that balance.
I've been married 34 years. Never cheated on my wife. Got the greatest wife in the world.
They have made it through all of these things by the grace of God.
We got 3 great kids that have never been in trouble for anything, and they're as crazy as loons.
And our family is one of the tightest families I have ever seen.
What's wrong with me? My hate is gone.
His outrageous odyssey from Vincent Furnier to Alice Cooper took him beyond his wildest dreams to become one of rock and roll's most infamous nightmares.
You don't get really more than a decade before someone starts saying, you're over, you're history. Alice, I think, has a perspective to realize, yeah, I'm history. I'm rock and roll history.
I've been beat. I've been stabbed.
Alice keeps on adding to that history, and no matter how many times he loses his head or is gruesomely murdered on stage, Alice Cooper refuses to die.
Rock and roll is my passion, but my family is my heart and soul.